welcome back to Shoogly Shed Motors, continuing work on the GT550, the Kawasaki behind me. Like we said in the last episode, we're building a vintage tractor inspired bobber. Fun little announcement is I have it on good authority that there's going to be a custom motorbike show in Scotland next year, roughly kind of late autumn next year, 2026, and it should be an absolutely brilliant event. I know the people organising it should put on a really good show. I kind of think sort of bike shed vibes, really nice custom bikes, really high quality builders, food, beer, music, everything you could want from a bike show, except it's not for people up here, it's not 8 hours away. So yeah, if that sounds like something you're interested in, just keep an eye out for announcements coming up in the not too distant future. Anyway, with that little teaser, I want to get on with figuring out seated positions on the bike. So obviously in the last episode we made the rear suspension mounts. I've now got shocks for the bike, so we'll hopefully try and get them fitted. I have a mounting kit for the seat, just a sort of basic double spring bobber mounting kit. I need to make it work with that vintage tractor seat that we've got. And then I also have a set of handlebars, and I have a sneaky little idea that I want to try and see if it works out with regards to the handlebars, and more about that on that later. First things first, I want to try and get the shocks mounted up. I think the eyelets on these shocks need a little bit of adjustment, but yeah, hopefully it shouldn't be too much work, and then that will give me a final ride height for the rear of the bike. And then from there we can start to think about seat and handlebars and start to get an idea for, you know, what it will be like actually sitting on the bike. And like I've said before, for a bobber, for me, a lot of it comes down to that sort of positioning. Aesthetics as well. There's a huge element there about how the bike looks, and then again, functionality, what it's like to ride. So yeah, a couple of things to iron out today, and then hopefully we can charge on with the rest of the build. Alright, I'm really happy with that. As you can see, I've just wrapped the shocks up with some bubble wrap and masking tape because they're brand new and I don't want to damage them if I can avoid it. Yeah, that's given me a really good ride height, I think. It's dropped the back end quite significantly, but not crazy, and hasn't changed the angle of the engine too wildly also. Yeah, I think that's a really good result with regards to moving the suspension mounts. And getting a kind of chopped bob kind of back end. Like I said in the last episode, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the back little bit here, if I just box that in or if I can get sneaky with some tail lights or something. Not 100% sure yet, but we'll figure something out, I'm sure. Next thing I think I want to do is try and get this tractor seat mounted. I think it's quite important that it's in exactly the right place, just to get the kind of seating, sit up and beg kind of, yeah, riding position I'm looking for, but also with the springs on the seat, so it needs to come up a little bit higher. And also, if you think about a tractor, you do sit up relatively high, so trying to meld that kind of bobber, sit up and beg with tractor vibe. Yeah, there's definitely combinations to be done, but a little bit of jiggery pokery. Yeah, and then we'll move on to the handlebars. So this tractor seat that we showed you in the last episode, combine this with this little mounting kit that I got online. Comes with an arm and 2 springs. So obviously springs give you that little bit of comfort, not a huge amount. Obviously it's a cast iron seat, but I'm not expecting you to go, you know, road tripping around Europe on this bike. Springs, arm. I wonder if it's best to get the arm secured to the seat first. You know, something like that. May need to modify this, strengthen it perhaps. To get the seat mounted there, and then think about getting the springs on once the seat is mounted. Yeah, I think that's probably wise. This is obviously a square hole, which is fine. Presumably that's for like a coach head bolt or something like that, which we can use. However, that won't kind of stop it swiveling in this direction. So I'm thinking about utilising this sort of arrangement here. I'm not sure what the original mount is meant to be, but if I have a piece of plate going across that's welded to this, that would make quite a nice sort of T, which would lock the seat into position, and then that single bolt down the middle will give it, well, we'll hold it in place obviously, but give it added strength. The arm doesn't feel hugely robust to me, so if I can do some modifications to that to add a bit of strength, I think I will. It doesn't need to be hugely strong, it's just 3 points of contact. The spring take most of the weight, but it does pivot on this, so I want to make sure that it's not going to flop about or bend or distort or whatever. So yeah, let's make some modifications to this first. I think cut a plate that will go across there, welded to this, drill through the whole thing, and then we can bolt the seat to the arm, and then think about a mounting point for the arm. Right, in case it wasn't obvious what I did there, obviously made the sort of T-piece, welded it together, drilled and tapped an M12, and we've got a coach bolt running through the middle there, and I cut a slot into it so I could screw it tight. Main reason for using a coach bolt is because it's a nice smooth surface. You've not got a hex or a socket or anything like that in the middle of your bum, so that definitely will help. So that's kind of my mounting point, is this hole here, and that's the point that it will sort of, you know, be able to pivot on the springs. I want the seat to sit kind of in a line really with the way the frame curves up there to match into the curve on the back of the seat, which kind of means I need to have a cross member here for that bolt to go into. It needs to be very strong. Just a flat piece of steel probably not going to be enough, so I want something with a bit more rigidity to it. So I'm thinking I've got this 40mm box section here. Was it? No, it's not 40mm, it's 25mm. 25mm box section here. What I think I'll do is I will notch it with a circular drill bit, obviously, to match the profile of the tubes, so that I can marry the square tube into the round profile on both sides. Get that in position, drill a hole through it, get it all welded up, and then think about the spring mounting next. Okay, I've just spent a bit of time cleaning up these frame rails. So this obviously slides in here, and then just kind of want to chap it into position and get it square. That's cool. That's a cool riding position. I like that. Handlebars obviously not quite right, but with regards to the seat, I think that's pretty spot on. I think I still do want to move the foot pegs forward a little bit. That feels a little bit tucked to me. You know, you don't want it to be like Harley footboards, but you still want them just maybe a little bit more of an angle on your leg. So that's definitely a job that won't be needing done. But yeah, seat feels kind of good there. What we need is to figure out what I'm doing with the springs next. So to mount the springs, obviously the spring's just literally a spring, and you put a bolt through either side with a big flat washer and a nut on the inside, and that's basically what holds the spring in place. And what I've done is I've made up two brackets out of quite thick steel. It's like 5mm steel or something like that. It's proper heavy duty. But what these are going to do is they're going to get welded in at the back kind of corners of the frame, and then a bolt will be able to go through them and hold the spring, and the spring will sit on these. The reason I've done it this way is it lowers the spring slightly and brings the spring, or the seat I should say, down kind of past the bottom of the bottom line of the subframe. It'll make more sense when I show you in a second. Just so the seat doesn't sit at a funny angle tilting you forward, so it kind of sits back a bit more. The springs do compress obviously when you go over bumps, but they don't compress a huge lot when you're just sitting on them. So I want to get the seat height, the seat kind of angle as perfect as possible, and then obviously it will go up and down with bumps while you're riding. Right, so as you saw there, I got those springs, well, the spring mounts kind of welded into or tacked into the underside of the frame, and then I decided just to weld the ends of the springs to the seat. I actually also cut off a ring from the top of the spring because they were sitting a little bit high and the seat was kind of just tilted forward a bit too much. I don't know if welding them to the seat was the best idea. Don't know how brittle the cast iron might be at that point, so I don't know how long that'll last. It might fatigue and break. If it does, I'll need to come up with a different solution. But I didn't want to drill a hole through the seat. I didn't want any more mountings visible at the top of the seat. And I was debating maybe to weld like a nut onto the underside of the seat and then screw a really short bolt in from the underside. I wasn't sure how to get into it, and I just thought, sod it, I'm just going to weld it and see how that lasts. If it lasts, then great. If it doesn't, then it's not too much of an issue just to remove the seat and fix it. But for the time being, that's the seat mounted on springs. It's quite comfy to sit in, actually. It's quite a fun little thing, and I think, like, just aesthetically, it's a really cool touch for the bike. Next thing I want to think about is the handlebars, because that's obviously the next positioning kind of aspect. Handlebars, and then we'll cover foot pegs in another episode. But I've got a set of handlebars and some mounts that I'm going to try something with and see what it's like. So first things first, we'll remove the old handlebars and then fit this sort of new setup and see if it's effective, see if I get the effect that I'm looking for. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And then, yeah, like I said, that will kind of be some of the main seating position, riding position stuff sorted out. And we'll cover the foot pegs, like I said, in another episode, because that's a lot of work. So I've just thrown on these clip-on mounts to the fork stanchions, and I have this really cheap set of aluminium riser bars. The reason I've got a really cheap set is because I'm not sure this is going to work. So I just thought I'd buy a really cheap set, and if this works I can get a slightly nicer set. The main trick here is that these aren't taper bars, these are 22mm in the middle, which is the same as the diameter at the grip portion of the bars. So my plan is to cut these down the middle and make riser clip-ons. I've seen this a couple of times online and it looks like it works quite well for bobbers, so yeah, cut that, slot them into here and see what it looks like. Well, I don't know about you, but I think that is cool. Really cool. It's quite unique. Like I said, I'm sure I've seen someone do something similar online before. No such thing as an original idea anymore, I suppose. But I think that looks awesome. I think that's probably the way I'm going to go with this. It's got that proper old school Harley kind of big wide handlebars, you know, those old sort of wartime bikes, which is exactly what bobbers were kind of built from originally. So yeah, I love that. Definitely need to move the foot pegs forward. Knees too bent when you're sat on it, but for a little experiment, I think that's been super successful. Just has such a good stance about it. Oh, I'm getting excited. Nice. So I'm going to wrap this episode up. I think that's some great progress, and just getting some of the stance right on the bike is kind of the main basis to go on. I think the tractor style is going to be really cool. Like I've said a couple of times, there's going to be loads of little details that I can draw, you know, inspiration from classic tractors and work them into just little details around the bike and kind of bring that theme to life. But yeah, I think that's a super successful start. And I hope you're as excited as I am about continuing this build. I've always wanted to do a bobber, and I'm getting the chance to now, and I think it really is an opportunity to kind of let that creativity just run wild a little bit. So yeah, I am definitely psyched about this, and I hope you are too. As usual, please do give me a like, leave me a comment, and make sure you subscribe to the Shoogly Shed channel. I appreciate all the support, and I will hopefully see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.